Welcome to President's Corner. I am Kirk LaDu, the president of Parallel Employment Group. And today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to tell some of the real stories, maybe some of the interesting and somewhat, funnier stories about working in our industry and what it's like to be, in this field. Joining me are our New York managers, our Arcade manager, Chrissy, our Dunkirk manager, Jess, and our regional manager who also works out of Buffalo, Tom. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thank you.
I thought I would start off. I haven't always been president of Parallel. I did start in sales, and then I went down to Chicago, and while I was in charge of sales, and in an office that's just starting up, you get pulled in, you got to wear every hat. One of the hats I wore was recruiter. As we grew, I did have recruiters under me, and that's when I took over more of the management responsibilities. And there was a time I could be a little tougher, not as understanding as I needed to always be. And we had an issue one time where we had a number of people who weren't making it into work, and it was not on them. They weren't getting the details that they needed. And what it came down to is I felt like my recruiters were just trying to rush off the phone to get to the next placement, and they weren't spending enough time on the details. So I had a big meeting where I just sat everybody down and said, listen, communication in our industry is everything. Our people have to know exactly where they're going. They have to know what they're getting into. And that's how we avoid some of the problems that we're having. You have to pay attention to the details, and don't let them off the phone until you're confident they have all of those details and they have all the information that they need, and that you are giving them all the correct information. Big lecture. Made sure everybody understood and felt very confident in that I had laid the law down, and there was a firm understanding of what the expectations were. Probably less than a week later, our late recruiter had a doctor's appointment, had to go, and we had one order, and I said I could take care of it. It was for a position that required English speaking, so I felt confident, whoever I send I'm going to be able to communicate with. And so there was a file for someone that had requested this company if an opening came open that I saw. So I said, oh, this is perfect. Her cousin worked at this same company. So I called her, and she was interested and she was available. And I gave her all the details, and I let her know everything. I had her repeat back to me where she was going to be going, what time she was going to be starting, what she was going to be doing, who she was going to be reporting to. When I was confident she had all the information and that she was the right person, I hung up and proceeded to close for the day, knowing I just made a great placement and was going to be able to confidently use this as an example to everyone of how to do this difficult job. So we come in the next morning, and my early recruiter is there. And this is before this shift starts at this company. And this is a long, long time ago, which you'll understand when you hear some more details of the story. So I see you got that order filled. I said, yeah, I found someone. I think they're pretty good. She had requested a position at this company came out, so I got a good feeling about this one. And she goes, okay, my only concern is, now this is how old this is. We had paper applications, and even our company information was in a book that was all laminated paper. Okay. She goes, I noticed that you had the north location open. Now, this company had two different locations, and they were about 6 miles apart. In the city of Chicago, 6 miles might as well be, 60 in the normal from a time standpoint. And all of a sudden, I just panicked. And I was like, oh no, did I schedule her to the wrong company? And so I, of course, did what any good leader does. I did not come clean and lied and said, yeah, no. I think I just turned the page. She's definitely was scheduled to South. And I'm thinking, okay, all I got to do is figure out a way to get hold of her. Now, to tell you how long ago this was, most people didn't have cell phones. Okay. Another indication, I don't think I had a gray hair in my head at the time this all happened. So I called her home. They informed me she left a half an hour ago and that there's no way to get a hold of her. So now I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do? I'm going to have egg in my face. I just lectured these people so hard about paying attention to the details. And I go back into the recruiter's room, and my recruiter goes, "Oh, congratulations. She's there. The company said she arrived. She was 10 minutes early." I'm like, "At South Plant?" She goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. I think it's going to be a good fit." Let it go. Just wondering, how did she get there? How the heck did she make it to the right location? Went on with my day, and then at the end of the day, where my manager now is the one who's closing, and it lets me know that they talked to the employee, because back then we always did confirm calls to confirm they liked the job, want to go back. And she said, yeah, she really liked it, and she's definitely going to be returning, and we put her on a long-term schedule. Company also had great feedback on her. It's like, oh, great, feeling really proud of myself. She goes, "You sure there weren't any issues? Like you were, how you were that confident? You didn't miss anything?" I said, "What could I have missed? She's there. She did a great job." She goes, "Well, she did mention to me that she had the wrong address, and that because she called her cousin, and her cousin the address that I gave her didn't make sense. And her cousin then asked who she's supposed to report to. And when she told her she's supposed to report to Jose, she goes, there's no Jose at the other facility. You must have," she goes, "I think you're supposed to come to the same facility I'm at," and gave her the correct address. And then she added, who scheduled you? She said, "Oh, some guy." She goes, "Oh, I think that's the boss. Yeah, he probably doesn't know what he's doing." So this was all communicated to my manager. So I finally had to come clean. I had egg on my face. I learned a really good lesson also as a young manager, and I was not a real good manager. I was, trial by error. I learned a real good lesson that honesty is the best policy, and to also, have a greater understanding for the difficulties and issues that your employees face, and doing the job also helps to gain that. So that's kind of my story that I remember, where what happened to me. So that's when we'll now move on. Now, Chrissy, I'm going to start with you, because you've been in this industry with Parallel a long time. So what would you like to share with us?
I would like to share, it's a very nice little uplifting story that came up on my first year here with Parallel. There's this gentleman, he came into Parallel. He was basically starting over from scratch. He was living with a family member. He was middle-aged. He was afraid that he would not be getting hired. He was a little bit like probably in his 40s, like right around our ages. And, when you get into that age bracket, you're like, oh, no one's going to hire me because I'm too old, So I said, don't worry about it. We got this all figured out. So I had him come in. He did the onboarding and everything. And I learned a little bit about him. He apparently, lost everything for one reason or another, just got a short end of the stick through his life and everything. And he moved I think he was like a couple hours away, but he moved into this area. He was unfamiliar with it, basically at his wit's end, and no factory experience, no money. But he did have he had a great personality. He had the drive, he had the attitude, the passion to learn as much as possible. He just wanted to learn. He was starved for independence and to get back on his feet and everything. So he came in, obviously did the onboarding and everything, and I got to know him a little bit, and he just was such a nice guy. It's almost like, he had like a soft spot in my heart. So I'm like, okay, I've got to do something. And transportation was a situation too. He had to rely on others and carpool. And so he felt really bad, had to put out others and everything like that. But we got him placed in his hometown. So he was within walking distance if need be, but thank goodness he didn't have to do that. He, put in his probationary hours, his committed hours of the 480 or what have you. And, everything was all good. He, like I said, he got hired on and everything. And then, and this was in September. Okay. So now in I think it was like the end of end of November, beginning of December. I checked on the mail and there's this card to Parallel Employment Group, and I got the mail. So I opened it up and it was a Christmas card, and it was from this candidate, this employee, and he had a little handwritten Christmas card, and it was to me, And it just said, it's funny because I actually posted it on Facebook. I was so proud. It was like a proud mama moment, a proud recruiter moment. And I was just so touched. And I put it on Facebook, but of course I flipped over the handwritten part that had his name on it. So it just had the Christmas card. And anyways, but it just said that, thank you so much for, placing me. And then he actually said that, that was the card, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones. And then he had like a little, notebook the pocket notebooks. He had a little note in there and he hand wrote it. And he said that he, can pay his bills. He has food in his cupboards and even had a little extra money that he was able to save up, and he bought himself a dump truck. It was either a Ford dump truck or he got himself a trailer, and he was working on it. And he must have loved to tinker and do like little things like that on his free time and on his off, when he wasn't working. And that just made me so good. And it's just watching him go from so low and then just be so appreciative and everything. And it just warmed me so much, you know what I mean? And it was basically a big pep in your step. And it just basically, it was the time when I actually realized, wow, I wonder what things would have happened and how things would have played out if he didn't come to Parallel, if somebody did tell him about Parallel, because we were actually his stepping stone that really changed his life and got his foot in the door. And that's all we really all we did is got his foot in the door. And then he proved himself, and he was everything that I knew he was. And he just succeeded. And it's kind of funny because quite often since, we knew about this, the President's Corner and stuff, I've actually thought about reaching out to him and just touching base to see how he's doing. I really think he would remember me. And I just wanted to share that just like heartful story on how, just we made so much of a difference and such an impact to him. And it was just, like I said, a proud recruiter moment.
It's an example of what makes a good recruiter, I think, Chris. As long as I've been doing this, the best recruiters are people that truly care about the people they're servicing. Often you can forget you have two clients. We have two clients. We have the client employee and we have the client company, and you need to keep them both happy. And a lot of times, to your point, it's people just need an opportunity. And when they're given that opportunity and they're given trust to do the job, then they'll gain the confidence while they're there. And that's it's a good lesson. You can get cynical. In any business where you work with people, you can get cynical because you deal with a lot of personalities, and some of those personalities can be difficult, and some of the outcomes aren't always positive. And so good recruiters don't lose sight of that, and they don't let that cynicism take them over. So and the experience you had and the feeling you had is what makes you a good recruiter, is that you felt that reward and that excitement when it all worked. So we will move to Dunkirk, our next most seasoned recruiter, Jess, who's now a manager.
Thanks, Kirk. So I love the example story you were giving earlier regarding, you misinformed her of something else. So there's good and bads about recruiting. So I'm just going to use the story I have is just about a mistake, to be honest. So, when we have so much going on, the phones go off, you're reading emails, trying to answer back, you have people coming in the door, applying and all that. So sometimes we get, as you guys know, sometimes we'll get clients, we'll send a new employee to start, and clients will be like this, they're not a good fit. Please release at the end of the day. So there was one time that I forgot to call the employee because it was so busy and I was waiting for their shift to finish. So I did forget. So I came into work the next day and I had an email from the client, and, she was a little upset and bothered, like, Martha showed up and she wasn't supposed to be here. That's just a made up name, by the way. So, she's like, I asked you to end her assignment. She wasn't really doing too well, but I'll let her stay because we're short staffed. So I apologized to her. I was like, I'm so sorry. There was so much going on. The times all of our clients end at different times. So it's kind of hard sometimes when you're really busy to keep track of everything. So I told her, I was like, at the end of the day, I will make sure that I call her after her shift. Like I wrote it down 4 times. I had it on my calendar to just make sure I ended her assignment. So then before the end of the shift, I get an email from the client that says, please do not end Martha's assignment, because even though she didn't do well today, we were very short staffed, we were very behind, but today she showed herself and she improved way better than yesterday. So we're going to actually decide to keep her instead of releasing her. So even though she didn't want her at first, because of the whole, mishap that happened, she was able to prove herself without me even calling her or, saying anything to her. She still worked really well. So I could have just been nerves as well, because that happens sometimes to some employees. But it worked out for us, obviously, and it worked out for the client as well. She didn't have to find a whole new person. And the girl did eventually stay there long term, and she got hired directly through them. So
it's a great story for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of lessons in there, and everybody in business has pressures, and all our client companies, have pressures for production, meeting their production needs. But there's also a lesson in you need to give new people a chance to get acclimated, a chance to get comfortable. And generally, the longer someone's in a position, the more comfortable they're going to be, and then the more confident they're going to be, and the better they're going to perform. One day is just not a fair trial. If someone is really late, or someone just leaves early, or shows an indifference to being there, that's one thing. That's an attitude that makes sense as far as replacing someone on the first day. Generally, and we know this in the industry, and the employer knows this, is though, attitude issues generally don't change that much. But when someone's there and they're trying, that's a person you've got to give an opportunity to, in my opinion. That's something we do counsel our clients on, is our client companies, is, hey, be fair. Be fair. And most of our client companies absolutely understand that, but that's a good example, and probably was a good lesson for our the client in the future, as they got other people. So that's a good story. That's a good outcome. That takes us to, he is our regional manager. So he is the most senior person on this call in that regard, but he's also the newest to Parallel. So I'm sure he would admit that he's learned a lot from both of the other individuals on this call. But he's been here long enough that he has his own stories and his own experiences. So take it away, Tom.
I've learned a lot from everyone on this call, so don't exclude yourself there, Kirk. So I appreciate all the guidance from everybody. But in Buffalo here, we have a little bit of some different challenges. A lot of our offices have some language barrier. We in Buffalo, because we have a lot of immigrants that come to the area, have many different languages, many different dialects within those languages that come into the office. What this has really done, this allows us the opportunity to help those people getting their first job, their first opportunity to work in our country, which a lot of us we take for granted. We're very comfortable and we know how things work, and a lot of times they don't. Once they start, it's very common for them to come in the first couple of weeks and ask us, when do I get paid? Because where they're from, they got paid when they were done with the day. So also, other things like how taxes work. Why am I getting taxed on this, and how does that work? So we're explaining to them about that. We're teaching them a lot, not teaching, but helping them grow as citizens of the country. Showing them how the bus schedule works. A lot of our clients are on bus routes in Buffalo, and explaining to them how to get to the sites on time and the importance of being on time. One of our employees came in about a month and a half ago and said, "Hey, I'm looking for something fun to do this weekend. Can you guys tell me how to get to Canal Side?" Canal Side is kind of an entertainment area in downtown Buffalo. And him and a couple of his friends ended up going down for the 4th of July and explained to him how to follow the holiday schedule on a bus. And he came in a few days later and said, "We watched the fireworks, 4th of July. We had some food. It was a great experience down there," and appreciated us showing him how to do that. But with that, you also experience some funny things too. One of the things I learned pretty early on here is words don't always translate. So my team will tell you that there's times where I'm either explaining to an employee how to do something, standing in the middle of the office explaining and miming out different activities that they'll be doing, or miming out just basic things that that's required at the job site, like going through the security screener, or making sure that they are they have everything that they need for the day before they go out onto the work floor. But the great thing is our clients are also very accommodating as well, and our customers, our client customers are. A lot of our foreign language speakers are also have different religious beliefs and dietary needs, and our client customers are very accommodating to them. Some of them have space for them to use when they need that time. And then also, like everybody here in Western New York and Wisconsin know that the weather can be an issue sometimes, especially for 6 months out of the year. And we have a lot of people who aren't used to snow, who have just saw their first snowfall last winter, and explaining to them how, hey, you need to make sure you get boots. Yeah, the snow is slippery and you can slip and fall, or make sure you wear hats. But what this opportunity is shown me is how people can grow though as well from that. We have many people who will come in here who will sit in an interview and just be like, hey, yeah, okay. And then you go to the site, and you'll see them a few weeks later. They walk up to you, they fist bump you, they'll carry on a conversation, they'll thank you for helping them out, how they're, to kind of everybody's point, how everyone is grown and how they grow into that role and they get comfortable and they get more acclimated with the site. We have one person who is at a site who was referred, I think 3 or 4 of his family members to us for work, and they all have started, and they're all working on site now, and they are doing a great job, and they're helping their family, and they're very appreciative for what we've done for them. And it's a great opportunity for us to see maybe what we're so used to, seeing it through someone else's eyes.
It's also an opportunity for us to show our appreciation for them. Our client employees who go out, wake up every morning, go to work, do a great job. They're helping our business. That's just the reality. That's the business we're in. And it's important that they understand that we appreciate their efforts and that they are a part of the Parallel family. I do think one of the unique aspects of being in light industrial staffing, as everybody on this call is you do work with a lot of different cultures, a lot of different ethnicities, and often it is the labor. It's the frontline labor that moves all of our economy. At the end of the day, you're reading about it in the news every day. Products are getting made, products are getting packaged, products are getting loaded, products are getting moved, and it's our people that are doing a lot of that work. And I think at times, not just from us, from maybe the country as a whole, there isn't an appreciation for what they're doing. And at the end of the day, everybody really just wants the same thing. They want to be able to put a roof over their head. They want to be able to put food on their tables, and they want to be able to take care of their families. Most important to every employee we have is their families. And they want us to be able to help do that for them. And sometimes they do that without the same respect that I think a lot of other individuals in certain industries are getting. And so I think it's important that our employees know that we do appreciate them and we respect the work that they're doing. And that's kind of what you're talking about, Tom, where you have these individuals. They're not just going into a new company. They're in a whole new world in a lot of ways. And if they sense that we have an appreciation and understanding for that, I think that carries far beyond that one person. And then that also, let's be blunt, it helps us with retention, and with future recruiting. Are there any other stories, any other tidbits anybody would like to share? Yeah.
Well, I do actually. Jess was talking about when she forgot to tell somebody or call somebody and end their assignment. That has happened to me, but but I actually had to call the person. It was a total different I had to call the person and say, okay, you are done. I made a mistake. And so I had to like eat crow and, do it like right then and there. My story was not successful, or my lack of calling was not that successful. But no, it's just
But
every day is an enjoyment.
You handled it the right way. Do not take my story as a model for how to handle anything. You are always best to be honest, come clean, whether it's with your employees or the client company. Don't get caught like I did. And trust me, anybody that's worked for me, with me, understands how joyous of a moment that was for my manager to know she had me. So I didn't blame her. But as I reminded her for years, hey, it all worked out. I must have done something right. So, well, thank you guys. That's really what this President's Corner was just meant to be, a more of a lighthearted look at the industry and some of the stuff we go through daily. And it's constantly changing. It's every day offers a new challenge. Every day offers something probably that you haven't seen before. And like I said, when you're working with people, people are going to be unpredictable, and people are going to come with all kinds of different personalities and their own quirks, and we have them as well. And so it makes for an interesting industry to work in. So thank you all. And to everybody watching, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.